And so for after birth, I know like for me, just thinking like, okay, emergency, like you always think of like if something goes a different way. I don't want to say like goes wrong because whatever, everything just is like, so whatever may happen, that's not the norm, I guess. I had 2 herbs, which I think I shared in that video of like what I had gotten to prepare, which is like, no, I had 3 different herbs. But 2 of them were just like if you bleed more than usual, you could take a tincture of that or like have the tea made already. And then like if the baby is needing some support with breathing, there's another tea going like rub on their chest and on their nose. But other than that, yeah, that was it. And let me see. So who was always part of your support team? Okay, so that was it for us. We did not have the doctors. We weren't doing blood work and all that stuff. And I feel like most of all, we were each other, like we were our own main support people, like checking in with our bodies, spending intentional time with ourselves to know like if something is off. I know for me, I would just ask him a lot, like, are you okay? Like, what do you need mama to do? And in my, like, I remember you was telling me one time, like, you have such a beautiful relationship with the universe. And I was just thinking like, that's a good way of putting it. Cause that's really what the universe is like communicating with to you all the time. You just have to listen to it. So I feel like the same when I would check in with Tonya and be like, what do you need mama to do? What do you need me to eat? Like, what herbs do you need? And like, if that herb came up or if I don't know, like read about it or just was feeling a certain way, like making sure I listened to my body and took those herbs. That was a part of like preparing for birth and preparing for birth and making sure like nothing, that everything just happened in a good flow, like just the way it was supposed to. So what were some of the affirmations that we held during birth? I know you used some of Queen of Fears. Oh, wow. He's pooping more. Using some of Queen of Fears. I read through those affirmations a lot towards, well, they're like the middle and the end, just to remind me of like what I was doing, like this powerful being I was holding aside, like just as hers kind of, I feel like just remind you of like the sacredness of the womb, and like that helped me a lot towards the end. And then some of the other affirmations, I had wrote them down because in that post, but I know one of the things was like telling my body is strong and healthy. My body was made to expand, to release my baby, and to contract. That was one of the biggest things. It was just like, I remember that coming in my head during labor, like my body knows what it's doing, it's gonna open. Like that's what this intensity of it is, like it's opening and it's going to know how to close. Everything's gonna be well. So I told myself that a lot. And that my baby is strong and healthy. Another one was that my baby knows how to communicate with me. My baby will tell me what he needs in order for him to come to me. And those were the main ones like that stood out. Like when she asked that question, that I remember like repeating towards the end and like during labor. That really helped me.
Yeah, I know that everything is an affirmation. And with that kind of power, my partner would say to me, like, don't focus on like an emergency or what can go wrong, you know? Because that will be the outcome, like focus on like what the type of birth that you want, you know? Instead of what you don't want. So that's what I was thinking about the entire time. I'm just like, I just want my home birth, man. I just want my home birth.
Yeah. And it's gonna happen. I always say like at births, when I go to births, when I know that when I have this feeling of like everything is well, it's like I'll get there and kind of feel it out. I'll literally have a vision of them like at this point of like catching their baby and putting the baby to the chest, like all is well, baby is here, you're fine. So like having that vision even before the mom is like in like super intense labor, because what you envision and what you feel, you will manifest it. And so, yeah, that's important too. Most of all, like more than anything, is to have that. It's comfortable now, ready to sleep. Having that vision for yourself and knowing that, yeah, everything's an affirmation. May have to change it. Let me see. What else did I want to? You ready for my little changes? How did you mentally prep? We did that. And then how did you, okay, like this was one that I thought was funny. How do you keep yourself in tune during transition? And I feel like transition feels so chaotic, like you don't feel like you're keeping yourself in tune. But I guess when I look back at my birth,
what was the question?
How do you keep yourself in tune during transition? So, wait, let me pause it. All right, so the other question, another one was, how do you keep yourself in tune during transition? And for me, and like what I tell all my clients out, I just say, for me, I have this voice in my head that's just like, it literally was just replaying, like, just keep breathing, breathe, just breathe, just breathe. And it's like, you have to take, for me to do like a full deep breath, I have to focus all my energy just on breathing. So for me, it's just like, I'm tuning in on that and that's it. And your body's just doing the pushing itself. So that's how I stay in tune. And I know a lot of my doula clients, when they get to that point, I'm just kind of like, I don't talk a lot, but because I feel like it's simple, just breathe. Like all you really need to do is just breathe. Like I know I've been at births and like the nurses and stuff, they're all saying all these things like, you're doing great, you're doing a great job, mom, and da da da. And it's like too much. Like sometimes it's too much. And it's like, look, just breathe. You know, like sometimes you do need to hear that. But what I'm saying is sometimes hospital is overload. Like, look, let me focus on my breath. Like I'm hearing too much. But yeah, that's it for me. Just focusing on my breath.
Nice. I had a lot of back labor. So yeah, I was suffering, man. Okay, that sounds horrible, but I just felt really uncomfortable with the back labor because I never had that my first birth. My first birth was like easy peasy lemon squeezy, you know? Like doing the whole like I just totally expected it to be like my first birth for some reason and just easy and short. My first birth was short, you know? This birth, it was from when I messaged you that like my mucus plug was coming out. And I was like, okay, it's coming. You know, so I was feeling waves and whatnot. And then like when the contractions were mostly in my back, I had a hard time like with anything. So what I would do was actually do yoga the entire time. So like whenever I would have like back like labor, I would just be like stretching, you know, like okay. Like he actually made me a yogi out of this. You know. So I feel like for me, eventually I ended up going into the bath and like having the water on me. Like I just was thinking about like celestial waters and whatnot. Like I am being birthed as well, you know. As well. Oh, Yeah, that was how I stayed in tune, was with water, to be honest. Like, I'm just like, I just need to be in water right now. Like, when, like, I'll go through anything emotional, I would actually just be like, I need to go take a shower, you
Yeah.
know? So that's how I knew, like, baby was coming soon, you know?
Yeah. The water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
use water a lot. I thought I would actually be in the water when he was making this transition to this side, but then the water wasn't done in time, like it wasn't warm. But before, when labor was actually active and I didn't know, I spent a lot of time in the bathtub. Like I think I spent about maybe 2 hours just laying in the tub and like letting the water like spray over my body. And when I got out, I feel like that's when things were like progressing, but it felt so good. So water helps a lot. And actually part of
Mhm.
prep, like going back to that, like that was actually another thing I did. I went and took offerings, and gave
Mhm.
thanks to Yah for like bringing my baby here, like well and healthy. I think about a few days before I gave birth to him, like I was like, I need to go to the water. And I went to the bayou. So even things like that is part of your prep. Like don't underestimate doing that kind of work too before, like the power of that, before you birth your baby. So yeah, that was another part of prep. And then what would be, let me see. I feel like I missed the one. Oh, and then someone asked, okay, so if you have a home birth and you're doing like this unassisted like we did, you will probably encounter this is like about birth certificates. So if somebody was asking, does the baby need a birth certificate? And my first baby, Kamalo has one. This baby I'm working on going a different route. So no, they don't. That's the short answer. They don't need one. So later, I guess if you have questions about like the process, like how it went, I'll be able to share because we're still in the process of doing his we chose to do an affidavit of birth, and then we still just need like documents that will be able to travel out the country. So we'll like see how that process goes. But yeah, you can reach out and ask me if you want to see like how I did the affidavit of birth and how that went. But no, baby doesn't need social security number or birth certificate if you do not want those things. Like you have an option, you have options. How
Yeah,
about
and like she just said, Brittany just can travel, the baby can travel without any of that birth certificate or social insurance. Yeah.
yeah, those were all the questions. I think if you want to know, I guess more specific things or things may have came up, then message either one of us. I can help do some, like I'm not back at birth just yet. I think my first birth I'll be back is probably around March. But like if there are questions or things like that, I can take messages, emails, or even messaging. We can do like a phone call. You can ask me questions. I do that type of work too with moms. I love educating moms, like especially when it's their first time doing births, and they're just like, some of them like I've had 2, 3 babies. They've all been in the hospital. So how do I do this? I love it. Like sometimes we're on the phone for like over an hour, and I just met this mom. I'm just like, nope, you can have the option to do this, 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 and I like that kind of work. And it's it's funny, like you have OBs that have been practicing for years and they won't even like you'll hear stuff that you've never heard about like just the natural process of birth and be surprised. So yeah, reach out if you have birth workers in your area. If you don't, there's always, like the social media. It's a lot of people on here you can connect with and get a lot of information. So just utilize those tools if that's all you have too. Um, Yeah, so I think I wrote on YouTube, I have like, if you want like little sessions like that, just donation based, where you can hop on and ask questions or just get some other resources, um, or just somebody to talk to about your journey. And then I know you were in like a group on Facebook, right?
Yeah. The unassisted pregnancy and unassisted home birth group. You can definitely look that up for some support if you are having a hard time finding it in real life. You can talk to moms that have had home births and unassisted pregnancies and home births in real life and get their support on it. So yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a good resource. And then
Just
keeping,
look at that was
what'd you say?
just look up groups online. Look
Yeah,
at specific things that you're into as well.
yes.
And I have to say, for preparing for an unassisted pregnancy and unassisted home birth, support is definitely an understatement. You need people that have your back. So don't forget that you're interviewing a midwife, you're interviewing a doula, they're working for you. You're not working for them. And yeah, have people that will have your back.
and making sure people will honor exactly, like if you have a feeling of something, like two moms just recently, like in the past month, 2, 3 months, have had the situation where doctors are telling them my baby's too small, and the mom is saying like, I feel like my baby's okay. Like honoring that what you feel is a valid thing, not just giving over that trusting yourself because they have technology, like these machines. So yeah, that's important. And yeah, educating yourself as much as possible on the process. Because like I said, if you don't know, then anybody can tell you anything about your own body because you don't know, you haven't taken the time to see just how it works, what's happening with your body while it's pregnant and carrying this baby. So yeah, a lot of education. And then yeah, keeping people who may have negative thoughts about your natural birth or just birthing even in general, just keeping them away. And if you don't want to share your birth plans with them, just don't. Like, especially if they're gonna have something negative to say about it, or like, oh well, what if this happens? And what if that? Like, you don't even have space for that. Just focus on what you need to focus on. If for some reason like you feel like this is just calling you like to birth naturally and to birth, like you have this vision of the way birth should go for you, there's a reason why that vision is coming to you, and it means that it is possible. Like if you have the vision, it's possible, like you can manifest it. And so just don't let anybody make you afraid of that. Like don't let anybody put that fear into you that birth needs to be this thing that's super like looked at from medical people, and they need to do this to my body and they need to do that, and oh, my baby should have this checkup right after birth. Like nobody, no, like says who. So you dictate like your birth and how healthy you want to be during your pregnancy. Like how do you want this experience to go? And do your research and find out, get the resources that you need, and birth your baby the way you want to. Yeah, I feel like the more kind of like mindful you are about the people in your birth space, the better your birth outcomes are. So like I knew for my first, for Lou, I knew that I wanted support women in the house. Like, so I had Ifeanyi, and then I had 3 women, and they were doing like, I feel like just their energy really helped me, and they taught me a lot about birth. Um, just by
So
them
can
being
you
there.
repeat that?
I
What
was saying for my
category?
birth that I had 3 support women. Like, I knew I wanted support of other women in the house because it was our first time, and they taught me a lot. Like, just them being there, being able to like only focus on my body and not worry about anything else going on in the house. Like, they got the towels, they got the waters going in the tub. They like everything is okay. All I have to do is think about myself, about like what I'm feeling. And so that left me in a space to be able to like absorb a lot and learn a lot from even just the way they were in my birth space. But when it came time for Tonya, it was like I knew that I didn't want, like I didn't want that. So just, I would say to just being aware of like what you really, really want. So don't make a decision. Like for Lou, I did pick a OB because I felt like, okay, I do want this homework, but I also think like just to be on the safe side, like let me just keep up with like going to the doctors and going to see an OB. And like, even though they never touched me or did very much that I didn't want them to do, it was still energy going into that place and like sitting down talking to this lady when I knew I wasn't going there. So it would be like I'll be sitting there and I didn't tell her I was birthing at home. I just made her think that I was just, like gonna go to the hospital when I got pregnant. So she had no idea that I was having like a whole midwife, like seeing a midwife, and I had to do that at home. So for me, it just took energy like to do that. Where this time I was like, I don't want to do that. Like my decision is to birth my baby at home. I don't want to go see anybody. I want to like just pay attention to my own body. So being able to just do that freely, it felt really good. So having people in your immediate like support group that is gonna be excited with you on this journey and like not make you feel judged in any way. And if they are, just don't talk to them about your birth. Change the subject.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do also have to say that um, birthing is, or giving birth to another being is like something that you can't really prepare for. It's definitely a mental thing, so you have to make sure that you have the right attitude when you're going into this, right? So it is not just physical but spiritual, like again, how do you talk to yourself like throughout the whole pregnancy, and how will you talk to yourself when things don't go your way? As in, for me, like I had my first birth, like maybe 3 to 4 hours, of labor, and then my next baby, my recent baby, it was like, I don't know, like 7 hours, 7 to 10 hours or something like that. And like I did feel defeated at some point, and I did thankfully have a support system, which was my partner, to remind me of my power and to surrender. Like, what you have to learn is to surrender to the waves of uncomfortability, not knowing what's going to happen other than your body is just naturally going to do this. Like, you don't have to do anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Other than
You
have a
just
good
have to breathe.
attitude. Exactly. Like, it
Yeah.
sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, but like just thinking about like how uncomfortable you are, like you're just holding on to that breath, right? Like you haven't fully exhaled and whatnot. Like so like Brittany said, like remember to breathe. Like it's as easy as breathing, but when we think about it too much, that's where complications happen, so just be aware of that.
Yeah. Yep. Just breathing. Breathing goes a long way. Yeah.
When I see your birth, I was like, wow, like who is she? Where did she come from? You know, like you're out of this world,
There you
you
go.
know?
Yeah.
Like she's right here telling you
And my
just
friend was
breathe.
saying, like, what kind of surrendering is that? She was like, if you and my other friend had just birthed her baby. He's like, she birthed maybe 5 months before me. She birthed the same way, like so quiet through the whole thing, like from labor, like the beginning till pushing out the baby the same way. And she was like, what kind of surrendering is that? Like if y'all taught a class on how to surrender, like I would definitely take it. And I'm like, what happens? Like,
Yes.
where are you mentally? And then also you're in a different realm, like you're just in between two. And I think, I don't even know. I was just thinking, what do I feel in that moment? And it's just like, it feels crazy. And so I think for me to deal with that is just like breathe. And it just puts me in this calm place, but it just feels like so chaotic. Like, whoa, like this is so much bigger than me. I have like, what do I do with my body? You don't know what to do with your body. Like just breathe. That's the only thing you kind of control right now. But I think just that prep and just, oh, another thing though, too, that I did was, and I said this with Lou too, is like I read a lot of birth stories. That just kept me like when I would get to a point of being like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, like a contraction coming in, feeling like, oh my gosh, like that peak. And just always reminding myself, like, women have done this, your body is made to do it, like just reading, I think 2 weeks before, that's how I knew he was about to come, is because I started wanting to read like birth stories that I had read already before, like when I was with Lou. And I was going to births. Like I think my last birth was like 2 weeks or something before he was born. But I was just like, I just need to get into my own birth zone, like where I was with Kamalu. And I just started reading birth stories. And those just helped me remind me of like the power we have and like the work that our bodies do is like, we really do this. Like, this is what our bodies do. So it wasn't making me get like out of control, because this labor did feel a lot different than Louis. Like Kamalu, I feel like I didn't experience pain. Like I always say, I did not experience pain with him. But this one, it was just like, whoa, like this one is feeling different. Like I feel some things and I was like, oh my gosh, that one hurt. And then I was like, oh my, I'm still in the middle. Like, how do I know I can get through? And I would just remind myself, like, just, like there's no other option. You're not going to the hospital. Like, that's not something you're doing. Your body can do this. And honestly, like getting through it, I was like, that wasn't even that bad. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, it really wasn't that bad at all. I would do it again and again.
Wow. After birthday. Okay, guys, just to get some context. Okay, Brittany literally just went and her baby was born.
Yeah, so when things got intense, I did this breathing that was like I heard that, no, and one of the birth stories I read, and that stuck out to me, like, what is it called? Blowing raspberries? Is that what they say children do? But it was like that, there's no way to do that.
Something like that.
There's no way for your cervix to stay closed if you're breathing like that. So in my mind, when it would just get super intense, I'd be like, I want my cervix to open. I'll just blow out like that. That's the most I did when it got like intense. And it helped with the intensity, I feel like. But yeah, I'm gonna share my birth video soon. I'm trying to get it together. And I want to post that and talk more, like go more into detail. I've still been trying to process it. Overall, it was fun. Like I enjoyed the journey. Like I enjoyed the day, like the way the day flowed. I really loved the way the day flowed. It was a beautiful day. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it soon.
You're a beautiful person. Wow. To witness that was so remarkable. Like even Ziggy will take your surrender class, like we just think about that sometimes, like, wow, like, are you even surrendering right now?
I think boy. Yeah.
Out of this world.
I don't know. But yeah, when I share the video, with y'all see. Yeah.
And for me, preparing for, I guess you can say, birth, I was also doing this doula class through the Mothership Network. So I feel like naturally, like I was just being a doula and checking in with myself through those classes, you know, and like you being a birth worker and seeing births, right? Like I feel like being in that type of work prepared you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and another reason, that's why I felt so comfortable. I was so excited for this birth. Like I was just like, I can't wait to be able to be like birthing again, because I'm gonna see it differently than my first, where my first, I learned so much from, I had did my doula training. But then it was I hadn't been to any births yet. I don't think I had been to births like that had happened, like my friends and like before in the hospital, but I hadn't been to any births like natural births or home births yet when I had my birth. So like just seeing how they were, and just like going through that whole process, and then actually being at birth, like when I was pregnant, when I got pregnant with him, I was like, yes, I can't wait to do this. Like, you know, like excited. And so I know all women aren't there yet where they're like excited to just be home by themselves. Like some of it still gets, like some moms still get anxiety. Whoa, you're loud. I like your voice. I love your voice. They're excited to do like a natural birth, but they may still get a little bit of anxiety, like to birth at home. And so that's the kind of thing, like I want these conversations to just remind women, like it's really simple. It's really, really simple. You know, it is and it's not at the same time, but it can be simple. Just prepare yourself, listen to people who maybe find like some birth videos like this where you have women that's talking about their home birth experiences. Yeah, keeping the right people around. And, you know, over time, once you're like making that like your constant, yes, baby, it'll seem okay. Like all of it will go away, fear will go away, and you'll be pushing your baby out at home with just you and your partner, maybe a doula, you know. And you know, even if, like I said, even if having a midwife like that is your comfort, right? Like that's where you are right now, or having an OB, being informed and knowing the things that you really want, the things that you don't want, and being able to say like, being able to stand in what you really want and not letting anybody like, you know, bully you into anything really. So yes, I can't remember.
So what you did to prepare for this was meal trains, preparing for your 40-day hiatus, your lotus birth, you bought herbs and whatnot. And so what did you do to prepare for having another child and being pregnant, like through your hiatus? You know, bed rest, like what did you do with your baby?
So after, you're saying like after birth, what did I do during that time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so during,
like with your toddler, because I'm sure like, yeah.
Oh yeah, so he spent a lot of time with his dad, but a lot of it was just spent like talking to him. So like just talking to him and still reading his books, talking to him about what had just happened. And he missed it because he wasn't here, but I let him see on my phone the video of the baby going out, and he watched it like 3 times back to back, like just on his own. He was like, oh, so the baby, he came out your body now, like just trying to process what happened. So I did a lot of talking to him about that, and just like he was seeing me do things I had not, like he was just seeing my body be different. Like he was seeing me wearing underwear, and he was like, "Why you know, I don't usually wear underwear." He's like, "Why are you wearing that?" And like, why why are you putting that on? Like when he would see me putting a pad on, because we kind of like just move around the room freely, and he sees a lot. So he was just asking me questions about my body, like, why are you putting that on? Like, what are these new things to see you wearing on your body? And just, you know, explaining to him, like, he came out of my body. My body is having a little bit of blood because that's what happens when the baby comes out. So he would say, oh, so then the next time he would see me, like, you're wearing that because the baby pushed out and the baby made your body bleed. And so I was just doing a lot of like teaching him and talking to him and reminding him that, like, you know, my body is healing, but after some time we'll get back to our normal schedule. And then a lot of time with the baby, we spent most time together. Just talking to him about the sounds he's hearing, you know, his brother, his dad, like what's going on in the house. And he came out to this certain song playing, and it was playing a lot during my labor. And so when he came for like the first 2 weeks, I would just play the song, like to ease him into this reality that he came into, like, you know, help to make that gentle. And then for a fine, we just did a lot of, that's my husband, we talked a lot before, like I just made him aware of like what's going to actually be happening, like what I'm going to need help with, and just kind of preparing him for like just that time with Kamala, where usually we have like split time where I'm home with Kamala all day and doing like the homeschooling stuff. And then he gets like some hours after coming from work. But like, I was like, okay, he needs to do these things. He needs to eat these things, you know, like just get ready for, so that they have their own flow and their own things that they do. But I was like, just not to bring them off of like certain things. This is what we're used to doing. So just kind of getting him ready to be there. And then like checking in with him during that postpartum time, checking in with Ifeanyi to see like what he needed to be able to support both of us. Well, all of us, and support me in my breastfeeding journey.